But next up, we've got Jeff O'Brien with Lommen Abdo. How are you doing, Jeff?
Not too bad, Andy. Thanks for having me.
The voice of the legal minute.
Yes.
Live and on a stick. I mean,
Yep.
on a chair. All right, Jeff. Hey, buddy. So, you have a pretty cool blog that we obviously read. And why don't you give a little plug to the blog? And I know that you just recently touched on estate planning by deed.
Yeah, well, my blog is called The Businessman's Lawyer. It's on the web at blog.jeffreyobrienesq.com. You can also go to the Lommen site, lommen.com, and you can read it. You can link through it that way too.
I think we have a link through our site too.
I think you might. Anyway, I did a post about a week ago, and it's an issue that keeps coming up time and again in real estate and estate planning circles, of people focusing on how do I transfer my house or how do I transfer a piece of property and not go to probate, and how do I do it in the cheapest way possible. And
That's
so
the
a lot
big
of times,
battle.
exactly, and a lot of times they go about it by using deeds. In the old days, it was, I'm going to transfer my house to my kids on a deed and reserve what's called a life estate, which allows them basically they have a life estate through their life, and when they die, the people that they call the remainder men take over the ownership of the property. There's a lot of tax complications about that when the person decides they want to sell the house while they're still alive, the life tenant.
Right.
And so a couple years ago, the state of Minnesota passed a new set of laws called it was a transfer on death deed, sorry.
Yep.
And the idea was you could give a deed that you could revoke during your lifetime.
Okay.
You could give the deed to whoever you wanted the property to go to at your death. And then, of course, if you want to do something with the property during your life, you could revoke it.
So if your kids get you upset,
exactly. You want to disinherit them, you can just pull the deed, right?
But you don't tell them that, right? Yeah.
Right.
Mom, you can't get out of this deal.
So the transfer on death deed was designed with this, trying to avoid this complication with the life estate and remainder interest in mind. And the blog post arose because a colleague of mine at Lommen, Glenn Kessel, who does a lot of estate planning, told me about a story that where there's a situation, this sounds great to do a transfer on death deed, but what happens if the person that you're transferring the property to dies before the grantor does?
Yeah, right.
And now you end up, guess what, going through probate, trying to determine the heirs of the grantee to determine who owns the property. So the idea being that when you do estate planning by deed, whether you do the life estate and remainder interest or the transfer on death deed, there's a pretty strong possibility that if your objective was to avoid probate and not pay attorneys a lot of money, you may end up going to probate and paying attorneys even more money.
Really?
So the moral of the story is, don't let the real estate transaction drive your estate plan. Estate planning is a complicated process.
Yep.
If Bob Abdo was here, my colleague, he would say the same thing. He does a lot of it too. And you have to take in, every estate is different. It's the facts and circumstances of the estate, and you really do need to consult with a knowledgeable attorney as to, lay all the cards on the table. Here's everything I have. What kind of plan do I want? And we fit the real estate pieces into that. We don't want to let the real estate drive it all and then end up with an adverse tax consequence, whether it be income tax or capital gains or estate tax down the road. And then, or have the unfortunate situation where you're trying to avoid probate and you end up in probate.
Absolutely great. So let's talk about your outfit today, buddy. You're wearing the Tommy Kramer jersey. Got a story behind that for us?
A little bit. Lommen does a lot more than just real estate and estate planning. We're a general practice law firm, so we have a business practice group that I'm a part of, and we also do a lot of sports law. And Tommy happens to be one of my clients in the non-real estate side of my practice. So we do a lot of
I thought you were trying to be a lookalike, and he's, I hate to tell you, buddy, he's better looking than you.
Yeah, I know. He would say that if he was here. So, but no. So my practice is a little bit beyond real estate. So, it's part of the fun part. It's a small part, but it's a fun part to be able to say you represent Tommy and a couple other, former Vikings and other retired athletes. So.
Absolutely. Well, good. Obviously you guys have a wide variety of different resources available, but so what are you seeing changing in the law side of real estate? I mean, is there anything that's major coming down the pike, or what are you seeing, Jeff?
I don't see anything major coming down the pike, except I just saw someone sent me a link last week to a crowdfunding website for real estate. I have my doubts as to whether or not crowdfunding, like you use for a lot of these startup ventures or some of the craft breweries that I work with, it works great for that. I just don't see a complicated product such as real estate with all the due diligence that
Right.
goes into a transaction, being ripe for crowdfunding. So time will
Right.
tell, but I have my doubts.
So you have some of your clients probably down here at that new the craft brewing.
Yes, we do. We do. We have a few. I'm going to stop over there and just say hi when I'm on my way out of here.
We should stop over. Not you, buddy.